guys. Welcome to my channel. On this video we will know the latest stimulus package updates. On the beginning we go directly to the press briefing by Press Secretary Jen Psaki at White House.
Just a couple of additional updates for all of you. Today, President Biden will meet with labor leaders to thank them for their role representing workers and supporting a strong American middle class, and to discuss the importance of passing the American Rescue Plan, which will not only help contain the pandemic and deliver immediate economic relief, but will also create jobs, including good union jobs. Today, our COVID response team also announced critical steps to expand testing in the United States, a critical piece of turning the tide of the pandemic and protecting our public health. Today, they have announced that the federal government will invest $1.6 billion, already allocated funds, but in 3 areas. And this includes $650 million to support testing in schools and underserved communities. HHS will use these funds to create regional coordinating centers that will partner with labs to leverage their underutilized testing capacity. These coordinating centers will help match lab capacity with demand from schools, congregate settings, like homeless shelters or other underserved populations. Almost $200 million will go to increase genomic sequencing. This surge in funding will result in a 3-fold increase in the CDC's genomic sequencing capacity to get us to 25,000 samples a week. This will help us identify variants sooner, which is obviously important and pivotal at this point in time. And $815 million will go to manufacture critical testing supplies on things like filter, pipette tips, nitrocellulose used in antigen tests, and specialized injection molded plastics needed to house testing regions. These are critical steps to address vital issues. This funding and these efforts are far from what is necessary. It simply provides a bridge to the funding that is in the American Rescue Plan, which will help us get more shots into the arms of Americans. I also have an update on the winter storms in Texas, which I know is of great interest to many of you. Our team and FEMA continue to monitor the situation in Texas, as well as other states in the storm's path that might be impacted. We remain in close contact with states across the affected area to ensure any federal support requirements are met. FEMA has supplied generators to Texas and is preparing to move diesel into the state to ensure the continued availability of backup power, which of course is a major issue on the ground, to key critical infrastructure, including communications, hospitals, and water. FEMA is also supplying Texas with water and blankets at their requests. We are preparing to quickly process requests from other states for emergency assistance. That's how the process typically works. And we urge people in the affected states to, of course, listen to their emergency management officials. Final updates. Ahead of the meeting this afternoon, the President is taking several steps to expand high-quality, registered apprenticeships to reward work, rebuild the middle class, and connect a diverse workforce to family-supporting living wage jobs. Specifically, today he is endorsing Congressman Scott's National Apprenticeship Act, which the House estimates will create nearly 1 million new apprenticeship opportunities and help ensure women and workers of color benefit. He's reinstating the long-standing National Advisory Committee on Apprenticeships, which will bring the voice of unions, employers, community colleges, and other institutions to expanding and improving the registered apprenticeship programs. And that he is signing an executive order that reverses Trump's executive order, former President Trump's executive order, which spurred the creation of industry-recognized apprenticeship programs. These programs lack quality standards and threaten to undermine the registered apprenticeship programs that have been the pathway to middle class for decades. I said that was the last. I have one more thing. Also today, the President nominated Jennifer Abruzzo as General Counsel of the National Labor Relations Board, and many of you have been following the changeover of leadership there. Having spent more than 20 years working for the NLRB, Abruzzo will bring with her deep experience and knowledge of the NLRB's role, and will be an important partner in building a strong and more resilient and more inclusive economy that delivers every American a fair return for their work. With that, a couple things at the top. Go ahead.
Thanks. I had a couple of questions,
Sure.
Sort of follow-ups from yesterday
and
this morning on 2 different issues. First, on getting the 5 days a week school. The Vice President this morning, I believe, said it's a priority to get vaccinations for teachers. Can you get to 5 days a week without vaccinations? Does the President believe that teachers need to be vaccinated before they go back to school?
No, neither the president nor the vice president believe that it is a requirement. The CDC guidelines included a range of mitigation steps, including vaccinations, as recommendations. But the mitigation steps also included steps like social distancing, the need for smaller class sizes, the need for sanitation. So this was one of several steps recommended in the CDC guidelines. Now, at the same time, the president and the vice president both believe that teachers should be prioritized. And as you all know, that's up to states to determine. There are federal recommendations. About half of the country, about half of the states in the country have prioritized teachers, and they both feel that's important, including child healthcare workers. And they both feel that that's something that is impacting working women and moms who are trying to go back to work and trying to make sure that their kids have the attention and childcare they need. So it's not a requirement to reopen schools, but they believe that teachers should be prioritized. But I can come back to you, but go ahead.
On the issue of teachers, you're making it clear that a vaccination isn't a must, as the CDC recommends, but that you hope that states prioritize this. Mm-hmm. Is this administration sharing that message with teachers? Has the president been reiterating that with governors, urging them to put teachers at the front of the line?
The president, absolutely. It's something he said at a nationally televised town hall meeting last night, and something that he will continue to communicate at every opportunity. And, I think what I was conveying, just for full clarity, is that it's a recommendation. It's one of many mitigation steps, but the CDC guidelines are guidelines. They're not requirements. But at the same time, the president and the vice president believe that teachers should be prioritized, and in many states they already are.
But you do agree with the guidelines. You do agree with the CDC recommendation that vaccinations are not a must for teachers.
That it is one of mitigation, a number of mitigation steps that should be taken by schools to keep things safe. Now, it's important to also reiterate, and when I talked to the president this morning, he conveyed this again, that we need money. These school districts need money to deliver on these guidelines. And when his Secretary of Education is confirmed, hopefully next week, I'll knock on some wood, then he will be leading this effort. This will be his number one priority, is working with these school districts to safely reopen as quickly as possible.
The timeline for widespread vaccine availability keeps getting pushed back. Originally, it seemed we were eyeing sometime in the spring. Now the president last night said the end of July. So when do we expect that there will be enough doses for everyone who wants a vaccine to be able to get one?
Well, the president actually announced, I know we've been putting out a lot of COVID news, I realize that, almost every day. The president actually announced last week, that he would be purchasing, that the federal government would be purchasing enough doses to vaccinate 300 million Americans. So he reiterated that last night. We will get the last shipment of those doses the end of July. By the end of May, we will have about 400 million doses. So at that point, once we have 400 million doses, there will certainly be a larger swath of people who will be eligible, who will be able to get access to the vaccine. But in terms of when every American who wants a vaccine who can get a vaccine, we will have enough doses by the end of July, and those have already been ordered from Pfizer and Moderna.
According to the press secretary Jen Psaki on the video, it should be enough vaccines for everyone by the summer. And the President Biden says U.S. will have enough vaccine for 300 million people by end of July.
Science and good conscience. Look, you're an incredible group of people. I've been out here many times trying to help you, trying to help my son who passed away with cancer. You're an incredible, incredible group of people. And that's not hyperbole. We still have a long way to go. It's no secret that the vaccination program was in much worse shape than my team and I anticipated. We were under the impression and been told that we had a lot more resources than we did when we came into office. We've only been here 3 weeks, but we've learned a great deal in those 3 weeks. While scientists did their job in discovering vaccines in record time, my predecessor, to be very blunt about it, did not do his job in getting ready for the massive challenge of vaccinating hundreds of millions of Americans. He didn't order enough vaccines. He didn't mobilize enough people to administer the shots. He didn't set up federal vaccine centers where eligible people could go and get their shots. When I became president 3 weeks ago, America had no plan to vaccinate most of the country. It was a big mess. It's going to take time to fix, to be blunt with you. I promised when I did my inaugural address that I'll always be straight with you. give it to you straight from the shoulder. I will not walk away when we make a mistake. I'll acknowledge it and tell you the truth. We started on day one. We won't have everything fixed for a while, but we're going to fix it. First, the vaccine. I know people want confidence that it's safe. Well, listen to Dr. Fauci. I did. I got my shots. My wife Jill did. Kamala did. And her husband Doug did. So, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins got it also. It's safe. And we need more people to get vaccinated to beat this pandemic. That's why in the first 3 weeks that I've been in office, we've increased the supply of weekly vaccine shipments to the states by almost 30%. That means millions more Americans will get vaccinated in February than the previous administration was on track to do. But that's just the start. We bought more vaccines. 2 weeks ago, I directed Jeff Zients, who's here with me, my COVID-19 response coordinator, to work with the Department of Health and Human Services to purchase more vaccines. Just this afternoon, we signed the final contracts for 100 million more Moderna and 100 million more Pfizer vaccines. We're also able to move up the delivery dates with an additional 200 million vaccines to the end of July, faster than we expected. And in further good news, both companies agreed, and we're now contractually obligated to expedite delivery of 100 million doses that were promised by the end of June to deliver them by the end of May. That's a month faster. That means lives will be saved. That means we're now on track to have enough supply for 300 million Americans by the end of July. It may not sound like the urgent progress we need, but let's be clear. When I took office just 3 weeks ago, this country did not have a plan or enough vaccines or people to vaccinate Americans. All Americans, anytime, at any point in 2021. Within 3 weeks, round-the-clock work with so many people standing behind me and in front of me, we've now purchased enough vaccine supply to vaccinate all Americans. And now we're working to get those vaccines into the arms of millions of people.
Go ahead.
Really quick one.
Sure.
The president mentioned, it didn't seem like he was endorsing it, just that he mentioned it, the idea of summer school. Is that something he would
Doesn't
like to
every kid want summer school? It's the dream. Your kids probably want summer school.
as a kid. But is that something he would like to see? I know it's in the discussion, and I know it's up to school districts. And is that something he'd like to do if schools are able to reopen to have full semesters for summer school?
Well, it is something that is an option. And, our Department of Education is also undergoing a study to determine the impact of COVID on kids and schools. And what is the impact of doing remote learning? What's the impact of not being in school with your teacher? And from that, they'll be able to work with school districts on what's going to work best to address the challenges and needs that they're finding through that study. But this funding that is in the American Rescue Plan can be used for a range of purposes, and we've talked about a lot of them: bus drivers, hiring of temporary teachers, PPE or other equipment, but also can be used for tutoring or summer school in cases where that would be an appropriate step, and it's really going to be up to the school districts to determine that.
Got it. And then the president said yesterday his goal is to have the majority of K-8 schools open 5 days a week by day 100. What about high schools? What's the goal for them?
I'm not going to set new goals here other than to say that the president wants students to be in school learning with their teachers 5 days a week, and he wants that to happen as quickly as possible and do it safely. And he's obviously said he wants that to happen in the first 100 days. It is harder, and we saw this in the CDC guidelines, but also from many of our health experts, because of social distancing. It is more challenging with older students than it is with younger students, and that, of course, it has to be a factor and something that I'm sure school districts will consider.
But they're also suffering more, aren't they?
Well, again, there's a study that our Department of Education is undergoing to acquire data to make a determination about recommendations on how to address the impacts. We'll let them speak to that, but I think we can all see anecdotally, of course, what the impact is on older students. We want students to be back in the classroom, but we want to do it safely, and the President's committed to doing that.
And then finally, you said previously that the goal was to have the majority of K-8 schools open at least 1 day a week in the first 100 days. Last night, President Biden called that a mistake in communication. He wants them open 5 days a week. So can you clarify what is the administration's goal for reopening K-8 schools in the first 100 days?
Well, I'm not going to take it personally that you don't hang on every word that I say in here. I did say last Thursday that the president will not rest until every school is open 5 days a week. That is our goal. That is what we want to achieve, but we look forward to seeing and hearing the CDC guidelines to gain a better understanding of what steps that will entail or should entail. I also said I can assure any parent listening that his objective, his commitment is to ensure schools are open 5 days a week. So I think we've been consistent for the last several days, and certainly when I initially said 1 day a week, it was our floor, it was not our ceiling, but without a doubt, the president wants schools to open 5 days a week, wants students to be in the classroom, wants to do that safely. We now have some guidelines from the CDC with several mitigation steps. We'll have to work. We need funding to do that. That is a pivotal piece of it. Many school districts need funding. They don't have it. And also we need our Secretary of Education in place to work to implement.
Thank you.
Clearly, the President Joe Biden is promising a majority of elementary schools will be open 5 days a week by the end of his first 100 days in office. Let me know, guys, your opinions. Do you think we are ready to open school 5 days a week?
Go ahead.
Just again, you're getting a lot of follow-ups from last night, and one more. The president spoke.
I welcome it. Go ahead.
The president spoke about minimum wage last night and reiterated his support for $15 an hour. And at the same time, he also tried to explain sort of a gradual rollout, and he spoke about 12, 13. We appreciate the clarification your office put out this morning about what that would look like. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of whether the White House will still insist that $15 go into the bill, the COVID relief bill now, and if that is not happening, what is the path forward? Is it the House legislation talking about $15 by October 2025? Is that what the White House will support if this doesn't happen? What is it looking like?
Well, we're in the middle of the legislative process for the American Rescue Plan, and we fully recognize, as does the president, having served in the Senate for 36 years, that his bill that he proposed that included a $15 minimum wage increase, included many other key components, may not look exactly the same on the other end when it comes out of the sausage making machine. But he put it in there, a raise of the minimum wage, because it feels it's important, it's a priority, and that men and women who are working hard, who are living making an honest living, shouldn't be living at the poverty level. We will let that process see itself through. It's not even to the Senate yet, and it will move its way through the Senate process, and hopefully soon, but I'm not going to get ahead of the process in Congress.
So you're still optimistic, Jen, that $15 will make it into this package and will become a reality?
We'll see. It's up to members of Congress to determine what the final package looks like. It's a priority to the president. That's why he put it in the package. But he also, and I appreciate you referencing, where exactly, I just stumbled over 100 words. I appreciate you referencing that when he was asked this question last night, it was by a small business owner who was concerned that immediately he would, or this is what the president's takeaway was, that immediately he would be in a place where he had to pay his workers $15 an hour next month or soon, and the president was explaining to him that this would be a progressive increase, right? And that's something that Senator Sanders supports as well. So he was explaining it would go to 12, then it would go to 13. It would be over a series of time, over a couple of years. So that was how he was explaining it. But again, the process is ongoing. We look forward to it moving forward rapidly, and we'll see what comes out on the other side.
So he definitely supports even a gradual rollout as an option on the table.
Oh, absolutely, he supports a gradual increase, that it wouldn't be an immediate, and as does Senator Sanders, and as do many advocates for increasing the minimum wage.
Thank you guys for watching. See you next video. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment.